In the Canadian Environmental Life Cycle Assessment Study, it was a pan-Canadian study, so we looked at what was happening in the different provinces. We wanted to see what the variations were in trends and practices so that we could understand overall not only what was the overall profile of the average Canadian kilogram of milk, but also what are the different areas that are significant contributors to the overall impacts, and how do these different areas, how are the practices different from province to province? Not from a point of view of trying to target specific practices or producers, but understand also how that plays into context with geography and regulation. We basically use the latest tools of assessment in life cycle assessment to capture the differences in soils, in climate, and whatnot. And that allowed us to understand whether the variability in overall performance from one area of Canada to another was mostly based on practice or on geographical conditions. Now, overall, that allows us to guide practices not only based on best practices, but on local context as well. When you're doing a footprint, it works in two ways. It works at communicating with the customer and also increasing the public awareness on what they're consuming. Meanwhile, it's also setting a path forward, more or less, by allowing the different stakeholders along the supply chain to address their hotspots. At an international level, Canada places really well. From the point of view of climate change, so the carbon footprint of about 1 kilogram of CO2 equivalent to a kilogram of milk, it actually places amongst the top with a small footprint. The carbon footprint is sometimes hard to put in perspective. So if you were to look at your regular activities, it would be the equivalent exhaust pipe emissions from driving your car for about 6 kilometers. Provinces where there is no irrigation, with an average footprint of about 12 liters of water consumed per kilogram of milk. This is water consumed over the different life cycle stages, so not just at the farm, but upstream from the farm. There's really actually not that much happening at the farm. Meanwhile, Canada as a white country has variable climates, so in provinces where there is irrigation on the crops, the footprint is actually much higher, around 200 to 300 liters of water. In terms of overall land use, the Canadian milk production represents about 2% of total agricultural land available in Canada. And that boils down to about 1.7 square meters of land per kilogram of milk produced. By doing this study, the dairy farmers have shown their leadership. They played a leadership role by initiating the study, as well as addressing the different concerns by the general public, the different stakeholders. This will help identify areas for improvement, as mentioned, as well as for future research and guidelines.